Hello and welcome to Flixplained, the channel where we take your favorite flicks and series and break them down to ensure you don't miss a single detail.
Another crab puff, please.
Avatar: The Last Airbender has been a fan favorite series ever since it was released in 2005. And since then, fans have been gifted with countless books, graphic novels, board games, and even a sequel series that added to the lore around the world of Avatar. And with all of that information out there, even the most die-hard of fans are bound to miss something. That's why, in today's video, we're going to be talking about 28 facts that you didn't know about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Make sure you stick around until the end to find out what a fan favorite character was originally designed as. Number 1. The Earth Avatar was misidentified at first. Avatar Kyoshi wasn't discovered to be the Earth Avatar until she was already a young girl. According to Avatar lore, following the death of Avatar Kuruk, the Earthbending Masters began traveling the nation for the successor. While on the Yokoya Peninsula, they performed the toy test on multiple people, but Kyoshi missed out on her chance to take it. Eventually, the two masters found a young man by the name of Yun, who they believed to be the Avatar. They, of course, turned out to be wrong. And it wasn't until a couple more years passed that the two masters began to suspect the servant Kyoshi of being the Avatar. Number 2. The Fire Nation and Air Nation once created an academy together. In the core book and game manual for Avatar Legends, the epic tabletop RPG, a lot was revealed about the world around the time of Avatar Roku, including the fact that the Air Nation and Fire Nation actually worked together to build a Fire and Air Center of Learning, which was a school where air nomads could teach citizens of the Fire Nation about their culture. Many members of Fire Nation royal families actually got involved in the air nomad practices. Number 3. Sandbending culture was vastly different from earthbending culture. The Siwang tribes had been separated from the rest of the Earth Kingdom as they were located in the center of its largest and most treacherous desert. And in order to adapt and survive in the Siwang desert, the tribes learned to create their own bending techniques and traditions by mixing waterbending and airbending styles into their earthbending. And the fact that the tribes have learned to survive on their own, away from the rest of the Earth Kingdom, the sandbending culture was shown to be radically different. Number 4. Aang was inspired by a documentary. According to Michael DiMartino, one of the co-creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, he got the inspiration for Aang as he was watching a documentary about a 20th century explorer named Sir Ernest Shackleton. Shackleton went on many dangerous expeditions in his life, but the one that DiMartino focused on was a trip to the South Pole that Shackleton was barely able to survive. As Michael was watching the documentary, Brian Konietzko, the other co-creator of Avatar, was doodling. He sketched a young bald kid with an arrow on his forehead. The pair looked at the sketch and decided to combine it with the inspiration taken from Sir Ernest Shackleton's story to create Aang and his journey throughout the series. Number 5. The Stop Hitting Yourself technique. According to the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the team had a hard time taking one of the strongest bending techniques seriously. Blood bending was introduced in the Season 3 episode titled The Puppet Master, when Katara learned that she could use water bending to control the blood flowing through someone's body and control them with it as if they were a marionette. Throughout The Last Airbender and the sequel series, Legend of Korra, blood bending is shown to be a terrifying and powerful technique. But behind the scenes, the creators couldn't help but laugh at it and refer to it as the Stop Hitting Yourself technique. Number 6. Fire Lord Ozai was also the Joker. If you recognize the voice of the big bad Fire Lord, it's probably because the man who played him is a legend in both the voice acting community and in the live action community. Mark Hamill, who is known for playing Luke Skywalker and as being the most iconic voice of the Joker, was given the script for The Last Airbender and thought that the show wasn't going to succeed at all. According to Mark, he believed the show was too intelligent, which of course it was. But thankfully, he was wrong, and he got to help the show wrap up by playing one of the best antagonists in the entire show. Number 7. Admiral Zhao's character was inspired by the man who became his voice actor. Zhao was a beast throughout the first season of the show and consistently gave Team Avatar a reason to run. While creating the character, it turns out that the team drew a lot of their inspiration from the character in The Patriot. Colonel Tavington, who was played by Jason Isaac, was exactly the sort of tyrannical military general that Zhao ended up becoming. DiMartino then asked the casting director to look for someone who could act like Jason Isaac did in The Patriot, and within a few days, it was revealed that they ended up getting the man himself. Jason Isaac ended up voicing the exact character that he helped to inspire DiMartino to create. Number 8. The air nomads were once highly respected by the Fire Nation. We mentioned the Fire and Air Center of Learning earlier in the video, so it shouldn't be too surprising to find out that, for a long time, the Fire Nation was very respectful of the Air Nomads. Many of the wealthy families in the Fire Nation would take the Nomads in and provide them with food and bed for as long as they needed, and in return, they would learn the peaceful ways of the Nomads. Number 9. Omar and Shu used to meet in secret on the hill where Omar's Shu was built. Believed to be the original Earthbenders who were taught the art by the Bajamos, Omar and Shu were two lovers who were separated by familial feud. To protect their love from their families, the two used their bending to create a complex series of mazes. While this initially worked, Shu ended up falling in battle, which enraged Omar, who released a powerful earthbending attack that was so strong that it forced both sides into a truce. Following the war, the kingdom of Omar Shu was built on the hill where Omar and Shu used to meet in secret. Number 10. Kyoshi was the founder of the Dai Li. During her time as the Avatar, Kyoshi had the idea to create a squadron compiled of the most powerful earthbenders that she could find. Her intentions were for the Dai Li to preserve the peace and harmony in the kingdom, especially since there had been a lot of peasants uprising lately. Avatar Kyoshi even took it upon herself to train the Dai Li and shape them into an unbreakable unit, and to take it a step further. Kyoshi even created the earthbending gloves that we saw the Dai Li using against Team Avatar. Number 10. The creators of Avatar believed that children were deeper than their parents gave them credit for. Avatar was a show that was meant to be enjoyed by a younger audience. Though, who are we kidding? I'm gonna rewatch Avatar in my grave. But despite it being geared toward a younger audience, it was a series that surprisingly touched on subjects like genocide and imperialism, two pretty heavy concepts. And when asked why they would put these stories into a show for kids, the creators stated, kids are deeper than a lot of people, and especially corporations, give them credit for. Number 12. Chi blocking was created by the Air Nomads. According to the lore surrounding Avatar: The Last Airbender, the art of chi blocking was first mastered by an air nomad who happened to be a nun named Ryoshon. Ryoshon was said to be one of the most skilled benders to ever exist, and because of her chi blocking abilities, she was sought after by students from around the world. But she knew the dangers that the technique posed if they were in the wrong hands, so she was very picky about who she would teach. One of Ryoshon's best and most famous students ended up being Fire Lord Sozin's sister. Number 13. Chin the Conqueror was conquered by his own greed. According to the Avatar: The Last Airbender history, a chieftain by the name of Chin grew tired of the Earth Kingdom's current monarchy and started an uprising against the 46th Earth King. The general public supported Chin's conquest, and he actually managed to get a lot of the Earth Kingdom to submit. However, after earning the title of Conqueror, he decided to get greedy and tried to take over the Yokoya Peninsula, which was the birthplace of the Avatar at the time. Avatar Kyoshi ended up making Chin look like a fool. Number 14. The Firebenders didn't kill all of the Airbenders during their raids. As you know, the Airbenders in Avatar: The Last Airbender were referred to as Air Nomads, mainly because their people had a nomadic culture, which means that they didn't stay in one place for too long. So the idea that the Fire Nation had managed to wipe them all out in one swipe when they attacked the various air temples didn't really make sense, and it turned out some ended up escaping. According to the graphic novel Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Lost Adventures, in a story titled Relics, the Fire Nation had often set up traps for any surviving air nomad, a trap that Aang fell for. You see, by pretending to sell old Air Nation artifacts, members of the Fire Nation would trick air nomads into revealing themselves. And when they asked where the artifacts came from, the seller would send them to an alleged temple that was really just a trap set up by the Fire Nation. And the fact that they are still using this trap when Aang was alive indicates that there are more air nomads out there than the title of the show has led us to believe. Number 15. The different bending styles are based on actual martial arts. All of the movements shown when a character was bending in Avatar were based on actual forms used in real martial arts. Waterbending was based on Tai Chi, Earthbending was based on Hung Gar, Firebending was based on the Northern Shaolin fighting styles, and airbending was based on Baguazhang. The animators did an amazing job capturing each form's different graces, like the flowing motions found in both Tai Chi and waterbending, or the explosive earthbending forms that came from Hung Gar. Number 16. The Earth Kingdom is heading toward becoming a democracy. In the graphic novel, The Legend of Korra, Ruins of the Empire, the Earth King at the time, Wu, informed his people that he had plans to end the monarchy, and he slowly starts pushing the Earth Kingdom into being a more democratic nation. This was obviously met with opposition from a lot of political figures and governors, but despite that, Gowling State ended up hosting its first election ever in Ruins of the Empire. The elections ended up being called off, and they ended the book with a bit of ambiguity, but it left Gowling State open to the idea of becoming democratic. Number 17. The air nomads had a secret flag to identify themselves to each other. Now, you would think the big blue arrows that practically say, "Hey look, Airbender here," would be enough to tell an air nomad apart from any other nation, but it turns out it wasn't. According to the book Avatar: The Last Airbender Legacy, the air nomads had a small flag that they would use to determine whether or not the person claiming to be a nomad was actually a member of the Air Nation. Number 18. Toph was originally intended to be a teenage boy. When Toph was first thought of for the second season of Avatar, the creators originally wanted someone on the team to contrast Sokka. They wanted a muscular 16-year-old teenage boy to compete with the comedic genius from the Southern Water Tribe. But after giving it a lot of thought, they found it more interesting to create a small, blind, 12-year-old who can take on even the largest of foes with her eyes closed. And honestly, I couldn't imagine Toph any other way. Number 19. Avatar: The Last Airbender almost didn't include Prince Zuko. Considering the fact that Zuko's story arc is one of the best in the entire show, I can't imagine what Avatar would have been like without him. But it turns out that this was almost the case, as the writers had originally intended for Fire Lord Ozai to be the main antagonist throughout the entire show, rather than just the shadowy antagonist. But they quickly realised that there wasn't enough for them to work with if they just used Ozai alone, so they decided to make his family play a key role. Number 20. Azula's voice actress got the job by not yelling during her audition. The casting team was originally looking for a famous actress to play the role of the short-tempered daughter of the Fire Lord, but they were having trouble. That's when Grey Delisle, aka Grey Griffin, stepped in and immediately stood out. She was the only voiceover artist that didn't try yelling when reciting the lines that were supposed to be yelled, but Grey's calm and quiet delivery ended up being the last piece of the puzzle for the otherwise explosive character. Grey claimed that she didn't yell because she felt like Azula was just so powerful that she didn't need to yell at anybody. Number 21. Toph was the only member of Team Avatar with a last name. This one absolutely blew my mind. Aside from Toph, none of the main characters in Avatar: The Last Airbender ever mentioned their last name. Aang didn't get one, Sokka and Katara didn't get one, not even Zuko got one, and the dude was a prince. Toph and her family, the Beifongs, are the only members of the entire series that are given both first and last names. They may have taken Toph's eyesight, but at least they gave her a surname. Number 22. Katara's character is what ended up deciding the fate of the Southern Water Tribe. When they were originally coming up with the concept for Katara, the creators quickly realized that they wanted her to have waterbending abilities rather than Sokka. And they also knew that they didn't want her to be a master of waterbending, which forced them to come up with a reason as to why she didn't have anyone to teach her. That reason ended up becoming the tragic backstory for her tribe, where the Fire Nation came and captured every waterbender in the Southern Water Tribe. Number 23. Lake Laogai was based on a real labor camp. The Season 2 episode of Avatar, titled Lake Laogai, was not only one of the more thrilling episodes of the second season, but also one of the most culturally relevant. The prison camp that Aang and his friends found themselves in was actually based on a real-life underground prison camp that existed in the 50s and 60s. It was supposedly a prison camp where hundreds of political prisoners were sent and brainwashed, much like Jet was in the episode of Avatar. Number 24. Azula almost had an arranged marriage. One thing that fans of the series have long been curious about was why Azula never had any sort of romantic story arc like many of the other characters got. Well, according to the writers of the show, they originally intended for Azula to have an arranged marriage as a subplot for her character toward the end of Book 3. But as they were writing out the story arc, they determined they didn't have enough substance to actually create a good story. So they scrapped it and left Princess Azula to live out her days as if she were a red cup. Solo. Number 25. DiMartino left Family Guy to work on Avatar: The Last Airbender. For a couple of years, before he began his work on Avatar, Michael DiMartino worked as a director and writer on quite a few early episodes of the hit animated sitcom Family Guy. However, DiMartino left Family Guy in 2002 in order to work on his own passion project, which would turn out to be one of the highest rated and well received animated series of all time. Number 26. Uncle Iroh had two voice actors for a tragic reason. The entire cast of Avatar: The Last Airbender did an amazing job and gave the show everything they had, but no one touched more fans' hearts than Uncle Iroh. Iroh was originally voiced by Mako Iwamatsu, and he did an amazing job at making the character feel as powerful and wise as the creators had intended him to be. Sadly, in the middle of Season 2, tragedy hit when Mako succumbed to esophageal cancer. Following the tragic passing of one of the best voice actors to ever exist, Nickelodeon was forced to find someone to fill in Iroh's shoes. The studio ended up going with Greg Baldwin, who was actually Mako's understudy. Greg ended up doing a great job and honoured his mentor in a way that would have no doubt made Mako proud. Number 27. Avatar: The Last Airbender was originally going to take place more than 1,000 years in the future. When first tossing around concepts for the show, Konietzko and DiMartino had originally intended on setting Avatar in a world that was set thousands of years in the future. At this time, all they knew was that they were going to have an air guy, some water people, and oppressive fire people. But beyond that, they hadn't discussed anything. Thankfully, as they continued to come up with ideas, they scrapped the futuristic concept and set the show in an older time period. Number 28. Momo's original design wasn't nearly as adorable. Much like I couldn't imagine the world of Avatar without Aang, Katara, Zuko or Sokka, I couldn't imagine it without Momo either. But what if Momo looked different? We know the character is a flying lemur, but during the time when the creators were considering having the show be set 1,000 years in the future, Momo is going to be drastically different. Originally, Aang's companion was designed as a robot money cyclops, and he was going to be named Momo 3. Thankfully, the creators ended up going with the version of Avatar and the characters that we all know and love. What was your favourite fact about Avatar: The Last Airbender? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to check out our channel for more Flixplain magic.